Today I'm interviewing Russell Currier about his time in the Swedish colony. What is your favorite thing about living in the Swedish colony?
Well, I always appreciated how relaxed it is to grow up in a place like this. It's a lot more laid back. It's much more humble, and it's just easier to work with. I mean, it's not just. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of trees. It's a nice natural setting, but just in general, everyone's much more outgoing and um, just laid back, and you can't really find that in other parts of the world, and I've always been grateful for that.
What was school like?
Pretty entertaining. I went through Stockholm Elementary, kindergarten through 8th grade, and I don't think we ever had more than 40 kids in the entire school. It was, I didn't realize how unique it was until I saw some of the other local middle schools around, and it was exciting because everybody knew everything about everybody, and you really get to know each student, and it's rare for sure.
How did you get to school?
Usually the bus. Eventually I figured out that I could ski to school if I took the right trail and convinced my neighbor to groom the trail. After that, I was always I could leave later and get to school faster if I wanted to.
What's the most memorable story for you?
Growing up, I remember Eureka Hall opening up. It was the what's now our big local restaurant, and I remember all the kids in school speculating as to what that building was going to be used for, and then when it finally opened, it was our own little restaurant, and every Friday we'd go down there, and that was just the one memory that I remember looking forward to all week.
What was midsummer like?
Unfortunately, we never did much for midsummer other than enjoy the longest days. It was interesting to see the celebrations that went on later on, and then I got to work with a few Swedish people when I was a teenager and hearing their stories and comparing the two, and there's both. It's nice to see it celebrated here, but it's definitely as much or more celebrated in Sweden.
How many siblings do you have?
I have one older sister.
What type of chores did you have?
I remember mowing the lawn, and if I did everything, at the end of the week I would get $1, which even by the 90s was not a lot of money. I think my dad was just trying to get me out the door and get me to do something.
How has the Swedish colony changed?
For me, I'd say unfortunately everyone's moved away. There's not as many young people, and my generation has moved elsewhere, either out west or down south, and we're not really seeing as many young kids, so I'm reluctant. I think that'll change and we can get a younger generation, but for now that's probably the biggest change I've noticed.
What's something you wish you had?
Growing up, I always wanted a go-kart for some reason, and I mean, as I said, we always had that kind of natural atmosphere, and we always had the fields and plenty of real estate to work with. So that was always one way I really wanted to enjoy it.
Is there anything else, any other stories you'd like to share?
Well, since we're talking about the Swedish colonies, interestingly enough, if you look around, you'll see a lot of red and white houses around. And if you actually go over to Sweden in Northern Europe, you still see those. It's pretty much the same across the board. It really makes it feel a lot like home.
And you're fine with me posting this to YouTube, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.